everybody, welcome. We're just gonna wait a few minutes until like people start coming in. But in the meantime, like feel free to scan the QR code because we will have like a few participation questions going on just to keep things dynamic. So it'll be great to see where you guys are coming from. And yeah, in a few minutes. Hey everybody, so I think we might just be getting started just about now. Um, In terms of like the QR codes, we will try to be making this as dynamic as possible. So if you could like participate, it's not just this question. There are like a few other questions just for participation purposes and stuff like that. But before I get started, I did want to like do a few shout outs to like people who like in the group chat because not everybody is has like told us like their country on this word cloud. So we have some people from Sudan, Ethiopia, Ghana, um, that's pretty good. Nigeria as well. Uh, DRC, like I already have you on here, and Nepal, yeah, that's great. So it's very nice to see a pretty big diversity in where people are coming from. Um, yes, thank you for participating. I think like I'm just going to make like one brief announcement before we start. Essentially, everybody who's here probably knows that we have that we're giving out a certificate for this, right? So I just want to bring your guys' attention to this that we are making it like, I mean, we don't want to make it hard, but we want it to be well earned, right? We don't want like it to just be given out just for anything, right? So in order to get your certificate for this like for the session, we will be keeping track of how many like total minutes of attendance to this session everybody's having. We consider that like being present for like about half of it is would be ideal because the session lasts 90 minutes. And then we have a short like quiz or not quiz, but a form for you to fill out. It's not, there's no right answer. Okay, so just calm down. It's mostly for self-reflection based on things that we've discussed here. And so it doesn't have to be like too detailed, too thought through. Like it's just for your own, mostly for yourself. We will be spot checking a little bit just to make sure like there's no, things are at least on topic. And then in terms of like if you can't make it to a minimum of 45 minutes, just write to us individually because we will be making some exceptions under 45 minutes of attendance, depending on how detailed your responses on the Google form will be. So that's pretty much it in terms of initial announcements. And so I think we will be getting started with um, with the session. So I will be going back to this. I'm gonna be giving you guys another question. You guys, if you can't fill out your scan a QR code right now and participate through this, you can always raise your hand and um keep participating either through the Zoom group chat or raise your hand and just say. So yeah, just let us know. What is the first word, given that this is a session on leadership skills? What is the first word that comes to mind when you think about a strong leader? And I'll be checking to see if there's any thoughts. So I'm seeing in the Zoom chat, empowering. That's one. Inclusive. Also, when you scan the QR code, I think it should allow you to give like more than one response. If you want, if you come up with more than one word that comes to mind. Okay, so I'm gonna be. I see one more welcoming in the Zoom group chat. So let's just start a little bit with some of these. I see like from here a lot of very good points. I want to stop a little bit on uh, understanding how, first of all, how we're going to analyze all of these things because these are all very valid. I mean, communication essential for anything. Um, Service, guiding, reliable, sacrifice. I would say that's very that's one of like the cons of being a leader because sometimes you do have to sacrifice yourself and you do have that big responsibility, you know, so that's very good. I see in the group chat another one, someone who's able to develop himself and the world around him. So yeah, so that ties into this other one that I'm seeing here called on constant motivation. So that would be something that you would have to do, growth of other team members likewise. So the way that we're going to analyze all of these, right, and like kind of structure them a bit. I will be wanting to show you guys um a SWOT analysis. How many people have actually done a SWOT analysis? Like raise your hand. Because I guarantee that like at least some of you have done a SWOT analysis in the past. This is usually done in the context of a business analysis, right? What does your company do well, poorly, what opportunities and what threats you have. So, I mean, for those of you who haven't done one of these, and this is how we're going to be structuring ours, it's going to be a little bit like of a modified version of a SWOT for this purpose. So the first two, strengths and weaknesses, we talk about those being like internal factors, like things that you can control, right? That's more of a self-reflection of yourself. Then opportunities and threats is something that we discuss more as external factors, you know, but you identifying those opportunities and making the best of them, or you identifying threats and addressing them prematurely, right? So, I mean, let's not get too much into the details of this particular example of what points to include, right? Because this is in the context of a company, right? But this can very much be applied to youth organizations or nonprofits, and also our own job as a leader. So, where is my mouse? So I will be sharing here. So let me just bring your guys' attention. Please confirm to me that you can see what I'm sharing. What we are going to be doing is essentially the SWOT analysis for this. So the way it's going to work is we're going to start with the internal things, right? Because strengths and weaknesses are internal factors that we can control, right? When we name certain things, like I'm just going to start out with, for example, communication, you know, because that's one that sticks out the most for me. Communication skills is an essential aspect of work. Communication, right? And the reason why this is because like you are the center of basically everything. you usually like even in InciSioN, right? We used to call chairs coordinators, so communication skills is a super important asset to have, right? Now, the reason why I put it in the middle is because like it depends on like what your skills are like to what extent do you have good or bad communication skills, right? So I think like I'm going to start with strengths and weaknesses, and as we continue developing this a little bit more, I'm going to give the spotlight to Despoina, who's going to be just developing a little bit more on communication skills. So if you would like, do you have the presentation up?
Sorry, 1 second. Just I was looking for the microphone. 1 second, just to put again the slide. Okay. Hello. My name is Despoina Chatzopoulou. I'm from Greece and I'm a member of InciSioN international team. I wanted to talk about communication skills from my personal experience and also to share some thoughts in this workshop. So first of all, as we said, communication skills can be either a weak point or a strong point while dealing with a project, while being part of an organization, while building up yourself to become also a surgeon. So when we are focusing on improving our communication skills, we have to focus on what is the means of communication. Is it direct or indirect when we are dealing with a project? What is our target audience? When we have a very big project, sometimes dividing into subgroups may be better to deal with different aspects and small goals of a project if you are leading it. Also, when you are dealing with different matters as a leader, as a member of a team, as a manager, it is important to allow yourself to have time for communication and other people to speak up. As we said, a good leader should be someone open, someone that also is inclusive. So that means also allowing space for others to speak up, to raise their concerns about difficulties in a project, and to minimize interruptions while having a conversation. And also make sure that the environment of communication is appropriate, depending on the circumstances. If a project is an international project, there are time differences, there is a distance, sometimes online communication is necessary, but of course, an in-person environment may be better if this is possible. And overall, while focusing on communication skills, it's about being honest with yourself about where you are standing. So are you strong at your communication skills or weak? And have time for yourself to reflect on events that happen in your workplace while participating as a volunteer, and to see why there was a problem in communication. So when we talk about communication as a strength, what are elements of the communication skills? So having thought myself, it is about being clear as a leader, setting clear and effective instructions, sometimes super clear, so not assuming that the other person knows what you're thinking, because not everybody thinks the same way. Being honest also about different priorities. So when you are talking with other members about setting deadlines, it's important to be able to identify conflicts that other people may have other priorities at a specific time and they cannot devote themselves as much to a project. This is something that it is important to avoid conflicts as well in the future with colleagues. Managing conflicts. So if there are differences between the group, it's good for a leader to be impartial, to be able to communicate with both parts that they have a conflict. And constant practice on your communication skills. How do you practice on them? I think that you practice by participating in different aspects. So exposing yourself. If you are having an opportunity to present yourself, this is also a way to improve your communication skills. When you are dealing with conflicts as well, this is a chance for you as well to deal with communication skills. So when communication skills are weakness, well, it's obvious. It's the opposite of where you are stronger communication skills. Unclear and ineffective instructions may be also a sign that you have poor communication skills. Not being open, being prejudiced, being sure that you are the only person that is right, and not being open to hear others, as well as dismissing conflicts that they exist. So overall, this was a small presentation to share food for thought. And if someone wants to share his experience by being member of an organization, you can also share.
That's great, actually. Like, I would actually add to what you're saying that, I mean, communication skills, like what are the things that result from good communication, right? I mean, ultimately, pretty much everything. That's why that's pretty much the first one that we're mentioning, right? Because like in order to have good communication skills, you need to be good at time management, as you said. You need to be good at organizing yourself, which themselves are separate points, right? And that allows you to function, especially when you're in a virtual setting. You don't have that like contact like person to person and like in person communication. It's difficult, and so what happens, I think, like when you're not a good communicator, bad things happen, obviously. So like there's miscommunication, then and miscommunication can lead to tension between people. It can also lead to resentment. It can lead to like it can have a whole chain of effects, so I mean,
And
like reflecting on how to actually communicate, right? A little bit has to do with it's not entirely hard. It's just, tedious because you have to be persistent, you have to give lots of reminders. That's what an internal affairs person does mostly. So communication in terms of internal affairs, that should be your priority, right? Because your reminders, you need to be giving like at least, I usually say about 3 times. If anybody has like signed up for this Zoom session, you'll see that I've actually sent like multiple reminders over the course of the week, right? So like it's about communication and just reminding all the time, not being too patronizing either. You have to be very careful with your word choice, right? And I actually would advise people to if something was a little bit tense, maybe just sleep on it, reflect on it, right? And then answer, right? Because usually we have lots of um um like our initial reaction is a visceral reaction. I never answer like when there's something that kind of ticks me off, I never respond to it right away. Like just don't do it, right? Because you'll realize like, oh wait, maybe their perspective was actually a different one, and then you avoid a situation of miscommunication, right? Because like you stop to think. So that's an excellent point. I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen.
yeah.
So if you guys can all see, right? Here, what is I'm seeing here, what is a attribute that could be a strength or a weakness as well? Here, as I'm talking about this, um, I would say confidence is indeed another attribute that you can have to a greater or lesser extent, right? If it's to a lesser extent, that would be a weakness that you have to address. And I would agree, very much agree, that being a confident leader, um, not only like there is this expression of fake it till you make it, right? If you look the part, people will believe you, okay? You go into a room all confident, people will trust you, they will think about you. So how do you become confident, right? Well, the only real way is by feeling confident yourself, like psychologically, when you feel happy, you become happy. If you think you're confident, you believe you're confident, you become confident, right? So that is one way to do it. And I would specifically say, um, don't second guess your own judgment, your own opinions, like especially when people give you advice, it's only advice. If you really truly think that it's not like the best decision, for your organization, don't do it, right? Or if it is, do. Or if you find an opportunity, then go for it. I mean, obviously, don't like make rash decisions. There's a difference between being confident and making rash decisions, but you need to be like not. It's also not being impulsive, but you have to have some initiative. I would love to see more suggestions come in because there are so many attributes about leadership that can be strengths or weaknesses, right? I would even say, well, stemming from communication skills, I would actually add organizational skills because part of communication is good organizational skills, right? And actually, we're going to stop a little bit more to discuss that. Meryem from our advocacy team will develop that more. So, um, Meryem, do you have
Yes, thank you, Angie. I'm just trying to share my screen first. Are you able to see?
yes?
Okay, thank you. So let's start talking about organizational skills. Being a leader means not just managing tasks, but creating a system that keeps the team focused and efficient. This could be as simple as having clear plans, setting achievable goals, and using tools that help us track progress. For me, organization provides clarity, and clarity reduces stress. When the team knows exactly what's expected of them, they perform better. And when they see a leader who is in control of the situation, it fosters trust. I found that in chaotic times, strong organizational skills make a huge difference. They turn complexity into manageable steps and allow us to move forward with confidence. To be an effective leader, mastering organizational skills is essential. One powerful strategy is breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable steps. Task management becomes much easier when each task is clearly defined. This way, you avoid overwhelming the team and everyone knows exactly what they need to focus on. A great way to stay organized is setting up a Google Drive with specific sections for different aspects of the project, such as social media, speakers, lecture topics, ideas, plans, partnerships, and collaborations. This keeps all resources in one place and makes it easier for the team to find what they need without wasting time. Another tool that has proven effective is by using shared calendar, where the whole team can see deadlines, events, and updates in real time. This creates transparency and keeps everyone on track. So the way to use Google Shared Calendar is to look it up on Google. You're going to find the link to it. When you click on the link, you're going to go, this is going to show up. You're going to go straight down to other calendars, click on the plus sign, which is going to take you here. It's going to give you the option to either subscribe or create. You, you have to click on create a new calendar, which is going to give you the option to name the calendar. You can name it the project like project one or name it as your organization. So like InciSioN, for example. And then you can set a time zone that's going to be manageable for everyone in the team. Then you're going to go down to share with specific people or groups, add people and groups, and then you're going to enter like their email address. This way you have shared successfully a Google Calendar with everyone in the team. And that way, everyone can see the deadlines, they can see the tasks. You can create, for example, a calendar for the deadlines, another calendar for the events. For example, you have a webinar once a week, you can just add the dates. That way, everyone can just look at the calendar and know what's exactly happening and when all their tasks are due. So there's no stress because of the time and the deadlines. So I am curious to know how many of you currently use the shared calendar with your teams? If so, then what challenges have you faced with it? Please type in the chat box if you are using a shared calendar, or please just raise your hand.
And as like people maybe suggest in the chat box, I would actually love to add that, um, we use the Google ecosystem mostly because it's the most accessible. It's the most simple one to use, at least for our organizational structure. And the thing is that there's so many resources on the Google Workspace that are untapped. If you actually start exploring, it's quite a bit that you have, and so the vast majority of people, what happens is that you actually have situations where you have all these resources, but you actually don't know that you have them, and you end up not using them, right? So like we talk about shared calendars, right? But I guarantee you that a lot of people don't even know about them. And the same thing goes for like any software for project management. Like we use Google Workspace, right? But you also have Microsoft. You have Slack, which is very popular these days as well. So it's really about what works best for you. If we have like people from national working groups, especially, we would also encourage like Google ecosystem specifically, more so because we give you guys access, right? We have a grant that like gives us all the premium features for free. so we share that with the national working groups. But like it's very insightful. For example, in the chat box, I'm saying InciSioN Ghana recently started using the shared calendar. You're still testing the waters, yeah. I think like for youth particularly, I would even say that the the hardest part is actually getting people to use it. Like you can have it set up, you can have it very nice, very beautiful, especially if you're in internal affairs, right? And then people just don't use it, right? It really depends on like if people, if that person already uses Google shared calendars, then it'll be effective, right? I have like one additional comment. It's difficult to constantly update the calendar manually. Yes. And you know what? I am hoping that someday soon, we'll have an AI to do it for us, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like doing things manually. So like another thing to be efficient, especially when you have a lot of things going on. So this is a tip on organization. Um, uh, I use AI to do all the tedious work, because like once you start doing something that's, tedious, time consuming, not really worth your neurons, right? You get really invested in it, then you get lost in it, in the production of it, and then but then you forget like what's the other thing that you need to do. And so like for me, AI is just one great way for me to just do something without getting too invested in it, and like still maintaining that like bird's eye view on what needs to be done, right? Any further comments? Or Meryem, you can continue.
Yes, thank you so much for your inputs. Yeah, it's true. We hope that AI is going to be much better than it is. But I do believe it's helping us a lot with research and everything else. But yeah, Google Shared Calendar is actually a great way for us to keep updated, to keep to be aware of all the deadlines and everything that has to be done. So yeah, it's a bit tedious to have to manually input everything, but we have to admit that it's a way that's gonna help us in the future. So I would like to talk about another key aspect of organizational leadership, and it's dividing tasks. Dividing tasks should be among team members based on their strengths. Clear task division not only distributes the workload fairly, but also empowers each person to take responsibility for their area. Time management is equally critical. Set reasonable deadlines, keeping in mind the amount of time a task should take to avoid overwhelming the team. Establish achievable goals that fit within a reasonable time frame, so team members can work efficiently without feeling overburdened. These practical steps create structure and predictability, helping your team move forward with confidence. I would like for everyone to take a moment to reflect on your current project. So please think about whether the deadlines you set feel realistic or if they cause unnecessary stress to your team. So that's it for my part. I hope I was clear in giving like a small tutorial of how to use a Google Shared Calendar. Yeah, you can. I'm gonna take it over with Angie.
Yes, I'll share my screen once again. I totally agree. It's not easy. Actually, in the time that you were discussing that, we had like a few more things come in on, and I think like I would categorize these on maintaining relationships. So the first one, like how to maintain a good relationship with everybody in the team. That's a skill that you must have, and the reason why it's like it's a skill that's an art, because you're very right that it can like backfire, especially if you're being too nice, then people don't take you seriously at first. You have to get the right balance of like, being friendly and being strict. And then another point here on strength, clear communication with members and ensure that they have understood. Understanding team conflict management, accountability, weakness, poor communication, misunderstanding, less dedication. Right. So regarding specifically the point on conflicts and understanding those, that would actually be well, managing those would definitely be a strength or a weakness. That's something that we'll probably discuss more in terms of threats, because conflicts is a huge threat to the correct functioning of an organization. But maintaining accountability and misunderstandings and less dedication, that's something about maintaining relationships, and specifically related to the workplace, right? In the workplace, you need to ensure that you have team motivation. You need to prevent toxicity from happening. You have to promote a safe space. And really, in order to maintain motivation and maintain those strong relationships, you yourself as a leader needs to have motivation and recognizing both positive and negative aspects. So like a lot of times we tell people off when they're not doing their job, but we don't tell people enough when they're doing a good job, right? So that's actually like a very key thing. I think Meryem will actually develop that topic a little bit more because of how important it is. And in being
Okay.
proactive.
Let me just share my screen again. Yeah, I think you can see it now. Okay. So a vital strength of a leader is the ability to motivate the team. Motivation is more than just giving pep talks. It's about creating an environment where people want to do their best. Each of us is driven by different things. Some need recognition, others thrive on challenges, and some seek a deep sense of purpose. As leaders, we need to understand what drives each member of our team. By connecting their individual goals to the bigger picture, we help them find meaning in their work. Personally, I find that taking the time to recognize efforts, offering constructive feedback, and setting clear goals keeps the team aligned and energized. Now, I would like for everyone to take a moment to type in the chat box. What's one thing you personally do to motivate your team? So if anyone could just type it before we move on to the second point. So in the meantime, I would like to talk more about motivation. Okay, I think we have input. So that might overwhelm them. Yeah, that's true. Engagement and communication, celebration after the project completion, constructive feedback session on regular intervals, openly acknowledging efforts. Yes, so helping them with tasks that might overwhelm them is a great way to create like a safe environment for the people of your team. So this is kind of, it comes with toxicity, relieving toxicity from within a team, creating a safe space for everyone to flourish in their own work. Celebration after a project completion is very true. I do believe that after every successful project, the team must come together. For example, at the end of a webinar, you can just leave your team members in the call and just celebrate and give your inputs in everything, be it negative or positive, and create like a feedback for your team. Openly acknowledging efforts as well. Increase their salaries. I like that. Trying to know the issue they're facing. So increase their salaries might not be possible for a nonprofit organization, but I would say that the constructive criticism is like equal to salary. The more you have a lot of constructive feedback, the more motivated the team is. Trying to know the issues they're facing is true. You should not let your team members be overburdened by something that you can just easily communicate within the team and solve together. Initiating staff of the month to celebrate their efforts, yes, kind of like talking and giving the feedback by the end of every project. Yes, so I like all the inputs you guys have. I think everyone is focusing on motivating the team, which is very good. So we can move on, I think, to the second point, which is preventing toxicity and promoting a safe space, which is something you were talking about kind of in the chat box. So one of the most critical roles of a leader is preventing toxicity within the team and promoting a safe, inclusive space. Toxicity can destroy a team's morale quickly, whether it's negativity, lack of communication, or unchecked conflicts. As leaders, we need to set the tone early by being approachable, handling issues head on, and modeling respect and empathy. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels safe to express their ideas without fear of judgment. For me, promoting this kind of safe space means being transparent, encouraging open dialogue, and setting boundaries that protect both the team's well-being and our own. So I would like for you to tell me, which of these do you think is the most effective way to prevent toxicity? Is it open communication channels, setting clear boundaries and expectations from the get-go, or encouraging feedback and reflection? I do get somewhat of an idea for each person, since you mentioned helping them with their tasks, giving feedback. So if you just want to add more to it, maybe. Setting clear boundaries and expectations. Okay, 2 people mentioned that. Celebration. All of the above. Yeah, the 3. I do agree. All 3 are are essential ways to prevent toxicity. Yeah, so I think encouraging feedback and reflection is found to be an effective effective in my practice. Okay, good. Yes, so I do agree with all of you. Each person, each leader might have a different way of like facing this issue of toxicity. But by having an open communication with your team, asking the members if they have anything to talk about, if they have like a conflict with another person from the team, if they need help with their tasks and everything, is a good way to create a safe space. Setting clear boundaries and expectations from the get-go is a good thing, like sitting down with your team and talking about what's expected from you as a leader and what's expected from them as your team members. And encouragement is obviously very effective, as we've seen, as we've discussed. So there's another point I would like to mention. It's self-motivation. Just like Angie mentioned, leadership isn't just about others. It starts with us. We need to be self-motivated because at times we are the ones driving the team forward. Even when challenges arise, staying motivated comes from constantly recognizing both the positives and negatives in our journey. It's about acknowledging successes, that learning from failures. Personally, I believe in celebrating the small wins along the way. These moments remind me why I'm here and keep me pushing forward. Self-motivation requires reflection, understanding what inspires us, and proactively seeking what source of energy when things get tough. I would like to ask you, what's one small thing you do to stay motivated when things get tough? For me personally, when things get tough, I remind myself constantly of sorry. Oh, so sorry. I didn't know I wasn't audible. I apologize. I'm just gonna go back and talk about the things I was mentioning. So I was just asking what's one small thing that makes you stay motivated when things get tough. And I was sharing that my personal thing is reminding myself about my personal goals and everyone's goals in the team. So for me to stay motivated is gonna help the team stay motivated and vice versa. So sorry, but so you mentioned personal goals, reflecting on your achievements, staying curious. Yes. Um, Setting personal goals, staying curious, and always learning. Yes, that's very true. I would like to finally address one thing, which is finding value and being proactive in seeking it. So um, as leaders, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day tasks, but the real strength comes from understanding why we do what we do. Finding value means reflecting on how our role makes a difference, both to the team and to ourselves. This isn't something that just happens. We have to actively seek it, whether through personal growth, continuous learning, or simply asking for feedback from our team. I've learned that when we, as leaders, are driven by a sense of purpose, it not only fuels our passion, but inspires the people around us to do the same. So think about your current role in one word. What's the biggest source of value for you? I think this actually kind of means the same as one thing that keeps you motivated. Um, so if you have anything to add.
I think we're just gonna wrap up there and go to the next point because we do have like several things to touch on before we finish. But this is very good. And actually, just to really quickly on salaries, because without I found that really funny. What you can do, however, to keep people motivated, it's about finding value, right? So like in terms of salaries, right, your value is the money, right? But it doesn't always have to be in terms of monetary value. You can always give like motivation to people by other means, right? That being said, it should definitely be worth people's time, right? If the whole point, if this is like not useful to people, like if, for example, this educational session isn't useful to people, then I wouldn't want people to come, right? Like it has to be worthwhile for people, for sure. And you can create value, like it doesn't have to be through money. You can be like, you can put this on your CV, you can do whatever. Okay, so finally, going back to here, we're just going to touch on one last part in terms of confidence, which we discussed earlier, right? Because that touches into decision making, which, as I mentioned, you shouldn't delay like a very clear decision that you need to do. That's part of being confident, right? So being a good decision maker is also an attribute that can be a strength or a weakness. And so we'll have Seemab from Pakistan giving us a few insights on that whenever you're ready, Seemab. She on here? Or did she disconnect? Seemab?
Thank you so much, Anji, for me.
I
Hello,
think
I'm audible for you.
I think we can hear you now.
Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you, Anji, and hello everyone. This is Seemab Mehmood. I'm a member of International Finance's IT team. So we are going to have a very quick discussion on decision-making skills and the role in being a great leader within an NGO or any other organization. So let's dive into some objectives of this very quick session that is going to understand the decision-making process and its importance. It is important to identify the different decision-making styles before going to choose yourself, where you stand, and then develop the skills to improve decision-making effectiveness. That is very important as an ultimate outcome of being a leader. So what is decision making? Decision making is the first identifying a decision, then the gathering the information and assessing the alternating resolution. So this is pretty important. Being a leader, the decision making is often makes you to explore the the difficult situations, but ultimately your effective making of being you as a leader and of being you as a part of long-term outcomes for your NGO or for your any sort of under influence people. So this type of decision that we are to discuss now, that is also direct and behavioral. So why is it important to set up 4 styles? Because being a leader, the first step is the self-awareness.
I think, did we lose her? During that, it's not that big of a deal. We can like go back to it later, but just to keep things moving on in terms of decision-making skills, as she mentioned, there are many ways of doing it. If I had to summarize it into one sentence on like what's the one thing to take away, isn't when you make a decision, make a rational decision. If you make the wrong decision, but you can justify why you made that decision, right? People won't really like go after you, you know? So as long as you can justify it rationally, ethically as well, you should be good, you know? So I think we're gonna just move on. In terms of opportunities and threats, these are our external things, not necessarily a reflection on us, right? We can be better or worse at communicating, more or less confident, better or worse at organizing, and better or worse at maintaining relationships and a good workplace environment. So I think I would want to invite people to starting a little bit on exclusively on opportunities. What are things what would you say while being in a position in a leadership position is an opportunity, you know, not just for you but for the organization? What does that mean for you guys? I would say just to like get us a little started, by being in a leadership position, you get to you have a very good overview. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong place. Overview of the network, right? And what does this lead to? Very good coordination. I would say that it's a privilege to be in a position of leadership. And I will reiterate how, like in InciSioN, we use the chairs used to be called coordinators. That's what you are. Whether you are a chair, a VP, or even a project manager, because like at any point, anybody, even in IT, you can be like leading something. You can be leading a session. You have a good your point is your purpose is mostly coordination, right? And so it's an opportunity for you to show how good your communication or organizational skills are, right? That's an opportunity, but also it's an overview of everything that's happening in the network in terms of activities, right? So what this means is that if you are in a top position, right, you can see everything that's happening. You can see how things interrelate. You can see how, okay, we have this partner, right? But I know what all the projects are. You can match that partner to like a mentor, that partner to be to like help you with a specific project that they will be interested as well, right? Because ultimately anybody in finance or external affairs will know that when you're engaging with people external from your organization, it's super important to have external stakeholder engagement, right? So being able to maximize everything that's in your organization can only really be done if you have like a bird's eye view, right? A very broad view of everything that's happening. Once you're like on just leading a specific project, you don't really have any reason or obligation to know what else is going on, right? In your in terms of another initiative that's happening or whatever. I would say I would please like vote if you can, and I encourage you guys to to be working. Am I sharing my screen or am I not sharing my screen? I think I'm not sharing my screen, sorry. So and such as that. So another thing that I would say as an important opportunity would be, how many of you guys have even thought about being in the position where you are the mentor, right? We talk a lot about us in youth positions receiving mentorship, but as a leader, have you thought about the opportunity you have for yourself to mentor others, right? I think like that would be a very key aspect to explore. And I think Prajwal, would you be open to sharing a little bit more on that?
So thank you, Anzi, for this opportunity. And hi, everyone. I am Prajwal, National Working Group member. So leadership and mentorship is the essence of any organizations. So when you are leading any NGOs or INGOs, you are not only leading your team, but also empowering them with the required skills, required knowledge, and confidence. So in this way, through mentorship, through continuous leadership, identifying leadership gap, we create a generation of young health leaders in our organization. So I personally believe that the growth of any organization is directly proportional to the growth of our team members. So we need to create an environment of continuous peer-based learning, capacity building, and feedback, continuous feedback to discuss the challenges in our organization and a gap in leadership and what could be the areas of growth in our team. So in my experience of leading Healthcare Association of Nepal, so it is the youth lead organization in my country, Nepal. So in these organizations, I am leading around 100 young health leaders where we work for NCD's advocacy and awareness, and we also promote youth mental health in our country. So at the beginning of leading these organizations, I initially organized different training sessions to my team members. I organize a project management training to the project coordinators. I personally trained the Canva training to the digital creation team. So we need to take that leadership gap and initiative. So by addressing those leadership gaps and through continuous mentorship, leadership, we not only enhance the performance of our team, so also we build a culture of trust, collaboration, and growth. So now let's reflect as a leader, what are the capacity building programs that you are applying for your team to address those leadership gaps in your team? So please write this in your chat box. So I mean that what are the areas of growth, or what are the capacity building programs that you think that it is needed in your team to organize, so that you are planning for your team members, if you are leading any organizations, any NGOs or INGOs, like grant writing sessions or financial development project management training sessions. So what do you think those training sessions to be conducted? So Amit is talking about fundraising. Yes, fundraising is an important aspect because we need to raise the capital of our project, and around financial issues also go same. Anyone? Yes, collaboration with the like-minded organizations. This is the great point. So in our organizations, we have the concept called external relations managers. We have the 10 team members, and we continuously seek collaborations for our project funding or for our project capacity building. Yes, research and skill development also excellent point. Any others? Publications, yes. So how to be, so I have told about how to be good mentor and mentee. So it is about when we are leading our team, we need to have a continuous communications, continuous workshops, and through those communications, we can find those gaps in their leadership. And once we identify they can perform in fundraising, or they can perform in Canva designing, or they can perform in financial aspect or project management, we have to identify what are the skills that are required for them. And once we identify those gaps in leadership, then we have to hire some mentors externally for their training sessions. Like I am working in COPD project in Nepal, and as I am unaware of how we can work in COPD management, so I am collaborating with senior organizations called NIRI. So we can get workshop training sessions, mentorship sessions from them. Yes, excellent point. IT skills, research, leadership, interpersonal skills, personality development. Yes, these are the points that we need to identify leadership gap, and we need to work on capacity building and empowering our team members. So that's all, NG.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yes, I think you can hear me. So I'll be sharing like my entire desktop now. So I took some notes on what Prajwal was saying, and I totally agree. You as a leader, even as a youth person, being a mentor is not easy. Now, I would say I would actually like to add, right, because it's one thing identifying what are your gaps, what's the capacity building, right? But what is the how when you're getting started with mentorship yourself as the mentor, I would say when this is especially applicable when you're delegating tasks, right? What how like there's a difference between delegating tasks to people because like you need to distribute the work, that's fine, right? But how many of you guys just tell people to just do something expecting that they're going to know how to do it, right? They won't necessarily know, right? And you have to be aware of that. So like I always make a point that if there is a specific task I need somebody else to do, right? I will not dare nor dream to ask that person to do it unless I've done it myself at least once, right? So like this has been me, for example, when doing SOPs, standard operating procedures, and writing them out. I have not like I didn't assign that to individual team members because like I'm not gonna expect people to just randomly know how to like manage or write SOPs, right? That's a skill to have. And so in order for me to trust that job onto somebody else and set them up for success, like I think that's an essential person, like setting others up for success. Don't set people up to fail, right? Because if they don't know or they don't have the resources, you're setting them up to fail. You as a leader, you're supposed to like set others up to succeed, right? In terms of a few other things, I saw that there was a point on collaboration. I definitely think that's is super important in terms of expanding your network. You know, we talked about like having the overview of the network. Expanding the network is important as well, because you're not going to be able to do everything on yourself, right? Don't put yourself on a pedestal, because we're youth and, like, you know, we're just getting started. We have less experience. We rely on other people. You know, so being in a leadership position, you have the opportunity to reach out to somebody else, like another organization like the WHO or G4 or any other organization that can help you, or faculty even, and even other youth organizations. You know, the reason why we say like together we are stronger, it's because it's true, right? Um, but anyway, I would like to move on a little bit to threats. Just to go on to like the final section. Because of based on the, like what we mentioned before, what are some of the things that the gaps of knowledge, right? I actually saw a few times financial issues, financial management as one of those things that you need to that you think you would need more to build more capacity on, right? And I think like that itself is a threat, right? Because like having financial limitations is a threat. I can tell you, go on and tell you about it, because I'm the VP of finance, right? And I've like seen this like firsthand. You know, and but this can be applied for anything, like lack of capacity on any subject, you know, would be a threat, you know. And you as the leader, right, as the mentor, or as the one that has the bird's eye view of everything, need to identify, have the opportunity to identify these threats, right? So these are interrelated in a way. You have the opportunity to identify these threats prematurely, so as to so that you minimize the effects of those threats, or address them when you should, right? And actually, regarding financial issues, I think Seemab was had something else, additionally to prepared to and developed, because she is on my finance team as well. And I will give the floor to Seemab if she is if she has better connection this time.
Thank you so much, Angie. Just a bit confirmation that I'm audible now.
Yes, yes, you are.
Thank you so much. So hello again, and my apologies before. I don't know why I have a very bad connection today. Thank you for bearing with me. So now, as Angie mentioned, we are going to have a very brief discussion on the financial aspect of any organization, because when you are in a leadership position, it comes with a management burden. And when it comes to a whole management process without finances, the whole process is incomplete. So let's brace yourselves, because now we are going to have a tricky finances theme, and if we are not going to tackle them in a better way, you know, it's a pretty evident that we are going to face a very hurdles or obstacles during the leadership. So let's have some, you know, a brief overview on this mini session objectives. I'm going to try to make you understand the definition of financial management. As Angie mentioned, that the biggest threat is actually the lack of capacity building on any subject. So I'm going to try to you know, have this aspect covered with this mini session. Then there is introduction to the methods of financial management, because it's important to differentiate between the budgeting, accounting, bookkeeping, and the auditing. And then lastly, what is the importance of being effective financial manager or the effective financial management within an organization? And lastly, there are some tips and tricks how
Did we lose her again? Yeah, so for the moment, like, I want to hear from you guys what specifically, like, I saw fundraiser, right, being one aspect, you know, but what, aside from capacity building, which is definitely like a threat, right? How does like lack of money, you know, uh directly affect your activities, you know? It's something that not everybody thinks about from the very beginning. And it's and I always like encourage that, you know, leaders should have at least some basic capacity building on finances, right? Even if it's like boring for you, like it's really important to have basics in finance, you know. Why? Because when you don't take it into consideration, right? And this ties into what we were discussing earlier, how like you have an overview of the entire network, right? That includes having some basic understanding of financial knowledge, right? You don't have to know how to do bookkeeping, but you should keep in mind that you need money for things, right? It's that simple. And sometimes that's forgotten. And the problem that happens with that, and I will tell you because I've been in positions of finance and not only in InciSioN, but what will happen, right, is you don't give a heads up to finance on a project that needs money, right? Usually you need a lot of time in order to reach out to potential sponsors, donors, whatever. There's like a whole process. You usually need either a concept note or a prospectus, you know, establishing clear goals of what you need financially, right? So that's time sensitive, right? If you're talking about travel or an event specifically, that's time sensitive, you know. So having that in mind from the very beginning is essential for discussing or planning your event or your activity, right? When you don't have that from established from the beginning, then you're gonna have to go backwards and and alter things, and sometimes that's not even possible, and then you have to abandon the project because of that. And I've seen that happen many times, you know. So the sooner you are at least aware that, you know, either keep the treasurer or finance lead in the loop, you know, or have some kind of awareness of that, you know. In terms of how to manage it finances, that depends on each person, you know. Each treasurer has their way of doing things, you know. I have my way, of course, and I've shared with people who are curious and have reached out to me specifically on these things, you know. And but it's really an art, right? Because, for example, in my case, even being in many finance related youth positions, I have seen my own deficiencies. And actually, that was one of the reasons I got motivated to do a master's of business administration, an MBA, right? That's very useful. Sometimes you'll actually see lots of faculty, especially Americans. You'll see that they have a ton of titles. So you'll see they have the MD, then a PhD, but then you have other titles like an MPH in public health, master's in public health. And then you'll see other people with MBAs. That MBA is what gives them the experience to either, you know, run private practice if that's what you want to do, you know, or run organizations such as this. And therefore, that's like an asset that you'll have as a leader. When your business administration is leadership, right? It's basically understanding that, in addition to, you know, the financial aspect, right? I think we're also going to let me check your responses. So societal reluctance, contemporary politics, infrastructure. Okay, I'm gonna stop on societal reluctance um, because and contemporary politics, because I think there's actually those two things can be tied. When you have that can be a conflict, you know, that's an overarching point on conflict, right? Because when society and you are not on the same page, or you know, the politics of things are not aligning with what you want, you know, that is a form of conflict, you know. And in addition, it's also a lack of consistent morals and core values, you know. I think it's I'm going to first go discuss what happens when you don't have consistent moral and core values, not only within your organization, but like also you have other people with other conflicts of interest. You have other people with different things they desire, right? And how that could pose a threat to, like, what's your initial mission, right? Are you going to change it? Are you not going to change it? You know, so I'm going to give the floor to Prajwal, who's going to elaborate a little bit more on why not having consistent moral and core values, it can be a problem, you know, and how that ties in to a threat.
Thank you, Angie. So talking about the lack of consistent morals and core values, every organizations that we are leading or that we are the part of the organizations has some common values, common mission or goals. However, as organizations expand and as a leader, we often fail to communicate why of their organization, the purpose or the drive behind the establishing the organizations. So when communicating with the team members, let's share our backstory, our struggle story for establishing these organizations. What inspires us to establish these organizations in our community settings, and our story will inspire our team members to have a common shared values and morals in participating in that project. So I often communicate with my team by saying that in our organization HCAN, so we, all the youth leaders of Nepal, are in the mission to reduce the burden of non-communicable diseases and promote youth mental health in Nepal. So this is our common goals, this that we have to achieve in these organizations. So let's communicate, have a common theme behind your organizations. So I believe one of the most important qualities of leadership is turning the leaders or organization mission into the mission of the team members. So as a leader, you have some vision, some missions. So we need to communicate with our team members on a daily basis so that this vision, this mission becomes the vision and missions of the team members. So once we inspire the team with the core values of the organization and create a strong culture, then many new ideas, many new initiatives will come from the team members, and that will benefit the growth of the organization. So now it's time to lead your organizations or any organizations that you are a part of and make a difference in your respective community. So are you ready for taking the lead and initiatives and finding the moral values in your organizations? So are you ready for this change of effort? Okay. So I want to ask you how you can communicate with your team members with the vision and mission of your organizations or the organizations that you are part of. Anyone, you can write in the chat box. What approach do we have to take to communicate our vision, our leader visions to make the vision of the team members? Are you getting my points? I hope so.
Yeah, I think like what he's saying is that um not having like by having basically the alternative, the opposite of what we say here, lack of consistent moral and core values, right? When you do have consistent moral and core values, right, you get more social acceptance, really. And are you willing to change those in order to get your social acceptance, right? Sometimes like you have to admit that your direction maybe is not what other people want, or what like makes sense socially, right? And that's also like a business, that's a business move actually. When your core values and your moral or your strategic plan is in line with what is relevant socially, right? That ties into contemporary politics, right? Like it has to be relevant. It allows you to have um, more trust, more acceptance. People will want to help you because it probably matches up, with other moral values and core values. So if anybody doesn't have any suggestions in the chat, we'll just continue. Sorry, Prajwal, were you done or should I continue and
You
just
can
wrap this?
continue.
Yeah, we'll just wrap this up. We only have like one more point to discuss really, which is in terms of how this can also be applied and how this is also relevant in terms of conflicts, right? I mentioned this already, but let's like take a step back and think about how conflicts can be a threat, you know, um, not only between your team members but also between organizations. Can another person or even a faculty, kind of blacklist you? Like that's possible. So being people's, sometimes people's egos are very high. We need to take good care of your wording and tone. That also is a communication skill, so that ties back into communication. And how unhealthy competition, right, is is a source of conflicts, really. So I'm gonna give the spotlight to Despoina one more time. And this is where we're going to, and this will be our last point. So are you ready?
Yeah. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the screen? Yep. Okay. So, basically, talking about conflicts, I would like to. I don't have a lot of things to say because I believe that every conflict is a specific case. Giving generic advice about conflicts, it's a bit difficult, but it's more a case-based discussion. Overall, we understand why conflict is a threat. There are different reasons that they may lead to conflict, and the best way is to prevent it from happening. But of course, if we cannot prevent it, how we deal with it. The main thing I believe, in combination with the communication that we talked about, it's whether both sides that they are in conflict are open to communicate. And of course, what is the role of the leader managing the conflict between two colleagues, maybe being involved in a project? Is he supposed to be impartial to take sides? I believe overall it's important to realize that when we have a conflict with a colleague is to focus also on the things that unite us, why we are together doing a project. And if we share the same code of communication, the same core values as we mentioned earlier, then we may be able to overcome the conflict. And of course, this requires good communication skills, but also empathy. We need to understand the other side as well as ours. And overall, from my personal experience, poor communication skills are usually the reason for conflicts in persons being involved in projects, especially when it comes to volunteer associations, groups, but also at work, in the clinical workplace. I think overall, this is what I would like to share as a point for thinking and sharing with you when we talk about conflicts.
Thank you very much. And so that's gonna be the last thing that we mentioned, but I actually wanted to just like refer to some things I've noticed in the chat. What you'll notice in terms of um of like weaknesses and threats and all of these things, you'll see there's lots of interconnections between them. You know, your strengths and weaknesses, you know, are your own abilities, and your own abilities to maximize opportunities or to anticipate slash prevent threat. You know, that's how it all ties in. You know, usually you know, financial issues stems from something external, right? Then your ability to address it is comes after, right? Usually, but then on the other hand, confidence, for example, like that's innate. That has nothing. I mean, it also has to do with how you address opportunities and threats. But you know, confidence is something that you kind of need all the time. You know, it's not like anything particular triggers it, right? So yeah, I would love to see if there's any last questions. Um, yes. Yes, we'll send like links for InciSioN WhatsApp group and community, if any. So like just one last reminder before we end, and if there aren't any additional questions, right? And I hope that this was useful, that like we are giving out certificates for this session, you know, mostly again as an incentive for you guys to come, but you have to complete a quiz at the end of this, which is mostly just a self-reflection on the things that we discussed, right? We'll ask you your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats. What have you like thought through or reflected for yourself on what is important for you to like, you know, prioritize, improve, strengthen, anything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If there aren't any last minute questions, you know, because sometimes this happens, there's last minute questions. We will be giving you a recording. Yes, don't worry. We are keeping track of how much time each person's in this meeting. Yes, and we'll be sharing the link is in the description for the Google Forms, but we'll also be sharing it on any of the group chats and whatnot. So if that's pretty much it, that'll be all. Thank you for joining us. We're just about time right now anyway. And yeah. If it would be possible actually to take a picture, that'd be nice actually.